So, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Gopika Raji, and I'm delighted to host Tech Talks by .com Infoway episode 4. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time. It's been great to see the growing interest and engagement across our Tech Talk sessions, and we are excited to keep building this platform with all of you. So, today's topic is most apps gets downloads, but no revenue. Here's the marketing that actually makes money. So, in this session, we'll explore why downloads alone aren't enough and what actually drives real app revenue. Before we begin, feel free to drop your questions in QA box. Let's get started. All right, so let's dive into today's session. Our topic is most apps get downloads but no revenue. Here's the marketing that actually makes money. So now think about this. Today apps are getting thousands, even millions of downloads, but when it comes to revenue, it just doesn't add up. So what's really going wrong? Is it the pricing? Is it the product? Or is it a marketing strategy? That exactly what we are here to figure out today. So in this session, we are going to break down why downloads alone don't mean success, the most common monetization mistakes and how user behavior actually impacts revenue, and most importantly, what kind of marketing truly drives money, not just installs. So if you ever wonder why growth isn't translating into revenue, so this session is definitely for you. So let's get into it. So let me introduce our guest speaker. I'm delighted to welcome Karan Lakhwani. Karan is a mobile marketing and app growth expert with over 10 years of experience in performance marketing, user acquisition, and monetization strategies. He has worked with leading organizations like LinkedIn, Practo, and AppTweak, helping business move beyond installs and focus on revenue-driven growth and long-term user value. So, with his strong expertise in user behavior and app monetization, we are excited to learn how marketing can truly drive revenue. So please join me in welcoming Karan Lakhwani. Karan, welcome you. So
Yep,
Karan,
thank you.
uh, it's over to you. Yeah, you can start the session today.
Thank you so much, firstly, for the invite. Really excited to be a part of this session as well. Overall, and a big thank you to the .com Infoway team as well for organizing these sessions. Amazing to see such a group of app marketers on the call as well. Um, I tried my best to share some insights with you, some ideas with you as well that have worked for other app marketers in different markets, and also monetization methods and strategies that might be helpful for you in any category that you might be. Um, I thought of sharing some insights before we get into a more discussion mode, especially with a lot of insights coming in with the end of the year 2025. I thought it might be a good, I would say, a segue to some of our discussion points as well. So please bear with me while I share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, firstly, these are just some market insights that I was able to gather. Overall, when it comes to let's say some of the subscription models as well, the top 25 apps grew around 80% over year, and we see that this is a big divide in terms of the top 20% apps growing very fast, whereas the other apps are growing fairly slowly in the subscription business. Secondly, when it comes to paywalls, we see many apps today having very hard paywalls as soon as you log in into the app, or very quickly in the user journey, because they do want to go ahead and convert a convinced user faster. And we see that apps are actually going ahead and making more revenue when paywalls are well defined and are also pretty hard to enter through. Freemium models today, while they have smaller conversions in the beginning, at the end of the day, both models are nearly identical in terms of retention. Now, with the number of apps as well on both Apple App Store as well as Google Play Store, the window to really win a user is closing up, right? A lot of apps today have 3-day trials with cancellations happening on day zero. The reason being the fact that users are today trying to test and understand which apps work the best for them, which are apps that really go ahead and solve what they're looking out for. And if not, they completely go back and cancel the trial. So a lot of day zero cancellations are common in the app marketplace. Right now, also with AI in the picture, we've seen a big boost to app development, especially on App Store as well as Google Play Store. But that does not really translate into strong revenue at the moment. So they are going back in generating more revenue, but the churn is much more faster for the app. Also with AI, the number of apps in each category, in each genre is also increasing, giving higher competition to each and every category as well. Although we have understood that with Apple as well as Google Play, there might be a lot of restrictions coming in the future with AI-based apps, and that's one more bit that marketers today are trying to tackle. And there's also statistics that around trials of around 17 plus day convert 70% better. So this is where, and these are some market insights which I found, which might be different by category as well as by country. But generally, the if the trial of an app is more than 17 days, the chances of them converting a user is much more higher. I'll move on to some more interesting insights that I found in the market as well. This is around new apps being launched in the market in the last few years, and you would see a big boost in terms of new apps that are coming up on iOS in comparison to Android. These are very specific to subscription based apps, not all the apps overall. And the spike that you see around the end of 2025 can be attributed to a lot of AI-based apps coming in, or let's say vibe-coded apps coming in into the market as well. And that gives us a view on how competitive both stores have become, especially to go ahead and grab the attention of each and every user in the market. Moving on, these are some retention metrics as well. Right, when we look at what's the kind of retention that happens on day 7, day 14, day 30, we generally see that they differ very differently from each and every category in the market. As an example, in the category of business, it's 0.31, education 0.30. They generally monetize early, which are very common trends across the market as well. Whereas for gaming, the value might be very small, but it's much more consistent over a period of time. The interesting metric, and this is something that comes up in a lot of conversations that I have today, is around what should be our trial period for any subscription based app, because the focus is on making revenue with these apps as well. What I generally go back and see, and this is also a statistic that we pulled out from Revenue Cat, is that on day zero is where we see the highest number of cancellations. And this can be a function of many different things. Did the marketing channel really go ahead and deliver on the user value while going ahead and having an impact on installs? Was the right messaging a part of the entire channel strategy as well? Did the user actually experience the value of what the app could solve for them or not? And that's where day zero is where you would see the highest number of uninstalls or cancellations of the trial as well. Day 7, of course, it's far more lower, and day 30 is far lower as well. What's interesting to also see is that if it's a 3-day trial, the cancellations on day zero are above 50%. If it's a 7-day trial, it's around 40%. 14-day trial, it's around 35%, and 30-day trial, it's around 31%. This would essentially mean that for apps that are having a 30-day trial period, the chances of you losing a user on day zero are lesser in comparison to you having a 3-day trial. Of course, completely dependent on which app, what's the app category, what's the user value, and also what's your revenue model as well in terms of making money. Finally, I'd also want to go back and share a bit around what's the kind of general strategy that a lot of app marketers are today adopting based by on the basis of different categories as well. So if you are someone who's building a new app in a category in India or anywhere else, it's interesting to go back and see who your competitors are and also what their what their revenue models might be like. If you're building a gaming app, it's very, very common to have a trial period of less than 4 days. However, if you're going ahead and building a travel app, the general trial period is between 5 to 9 days. And these are the kind of things that can really influence your marketing strategy, your user acquisition strategy, as well as your retention strategy. Should you be having a monthly subscription? Should you be having a weekly subscription? Should you be having a lifetime subscription? All of this is extremely dependent on how you go back and understand the market. What is your value proposition, and what is data talking to you as well? And then finally, I'd want to also go back and share a bit around what are the most common plans when it comes to different categories as well as different markets. Of course, there's a lot that can be drilled down in terms of data, but what we observe is that apps generally have 3 to 4 kind of plans. Most apps would at least have 3 plans, which would be monthly, annual, or a lifetime plan for them. However, lifetime plans are very, very uncommon in the shopping category in comparison to the gaming category. And these are insights that can help, especially if you're planning to build a new app or to go ahead and start monetizing an app that you already have. So that was a quick foray into some of the market insights that I found. It's interesting to, of course, see and visualize how some of our beliefs in the ecosystem are already spoken by data. I was trying to also understand from multiple categories and countries in terms of what should be the pricing model, what should be the user acquisition channels as well. And it's interesting to see that they differ by category, by country, by region, and would be really excited to also talk about the same in the upcoming session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karan. That wasn't truly an insightful session. I'm sure everyone here now has a much clearer understanding of why many apps struggle with monetization and what can actually be done to improve revenue. So, your practical insights and real world examples have made the session extremely valuable. Once again, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Now, let's move on to the next segment. So, next segment is Q&A segment. So, I'll be asking a few questions to you, Karan, to explore these topics further. So let's get started with the first question. First question is, after launching an app, how long should we realistically expect before seeing a revenue?
No, I think it's an interesting question because once an app is launched and it starts getting some traction in the market, there are some parts that have to be always thought about, right? Like, for example, in terms of the timeline of what's the kind of timeline for user acquisition, when are users activating different plans or let's say different trials? Are they coming back to the platform or the app as well? Like, are they coming back to or what's their engagement on the app as well with the core features. So I think to map the user journey really well, I would say it generally takes 2 to 4 weeks to understand any kind of revenue signals. But to also have some predictable revenue, it would generally take around 2 to 3 months for a simple reason that it's important to understand what's the day 7 retention, what's the day 30 retention as well from users that are coming in. Also, some users might start maturing in this cycle of saying, let's say, are they converting from a free trial to a paid subscription? Or if there's a very hard paywall, are they really going back and having the first transaction or not? So I think generally it would take around 2 to 3 months to have a predictable revenue cycle, but 2 to 4 weeks should be enough for us to start seeing some early revenue signals within the app.
That's a very realistic explanation and expectation for business starting out. So the next question is monetization driven more by product improvements or marketing strategy?
For sure, that's an interesting question, and I'm sure that folks in product and marketing would fight for the right answer. But overall, I would say that monetization would really sit between the intersection of both product as well as marketing, with, of course, marketing having a bit of leverage because I come from a marketing background. But having said that, product really determines what's the kind of retention that's happening on the app. Is it a habit forming product or not? And would users then have the right willingness to pay as well for the product? So I would say product really determines what happens once a user downloads the app. What's the kind of adoption? What's the kind of retention? Is it habit forming or not? And would users continue to pay for that product or not? And I think that's where product improvement plays a huge role, especially for apps. On the other hand, marketing would determine what's the user quality and what are user expectations when they download the app. So I think marketing channels can really go back and control, are they going ahead and getting a storm of users to make the first few trials and then it trickle down to a paid user? Or are they going back and saying, we're going to be selective, we are going to go ahead and target a particular user type and then go behind ensuring that the expectations are set for them? I'll give you a very practical example of a health app that I recently worked with. Amazing app to go ahead and track health goals. Also, of course, also track, let's say, sleeping habits, eating habits, and also your calorie intake. It was, of course, a paid app with a very hard paywall. And the marketing team knew and understood that this product is going to sell to users who are actively looking at their fitness goals to be achieved, who are going ahead and already tracking their fitness goals, and who also have a way of managing and measuring each and every part of their daily lives. So then they go back and start marketing to those individuals alone. So I would say product and marketing both have to work together to ensure that an app succeeds in the market. And overall, I would say marketing gets the right users, products make products generally make them stay, and monetization happens in between.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, like on balancing product and marketing. I'll move to the next question. What's the biggest mistake app owners make when trying to monetize their users?
I, I think when marketers as well as app developers start focusing on building the app as well as making sure that the app grows very fast, I've seen some very common pitfalls to fall into. The first one being that they start attracting users who don't intend to pay. It's always very great to go back and share that uh, the app has received 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 downloads, but it's always a question around how many of those users are actually contributing to business value. So are they going back and ready to pay for an app or not? Secondly, it would also be around building features for engagement and not for value. So app marketers often do this because they do want to go back and ensure that the engagement on the app is very high. So they might build some features which might be more in terms of increasing engagement, or things like building a community. However, they don't really go back and contribute to value or to instances where a user might pay. And thirdly, I would say also the fact that when they start delaying learning what users are actually willing to pay for, often some of these trends appear for very new apps when they go back and let's say have a sustainable number of users around 1,000 to 1,500 users. It's important to understand what are they paying for, what are feature sets that they're using within the app, what is the highest engagement that they're driving as well, and what are some actions that repeat users are often taking before going back and renewing a subscription as well. So I think those are points that need to be considered while really making marketing as well as product decisions. And often these are mistakes, or I would say misses, that we often see some marketers and product developers make as well.
That really highlights a common but critical mistake. So the next question is, there is a belief that Indian users don't spend on apps. How true is that?
Absolutely untrue. Indian users spend a lot on apps, but it's true that most of the Indian users are extremely value conscious. What works in India might not work abroad, and what works in the US might not work in India. What I've observed with working with a lot of app developers as well as app marketers, especially in the Indian market, is that Indian consumers actually prefer to have a clear and tangible value, and also to have some familiarity with the app as well. I think a lot of us experienced platforms like or OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime by taking a free trial or a 1 month trial as well to build to also understand what do these OTT platforms have? Do they have the kind of content that I watch or not? Or is it good enough for me to use it with my current TV or on my phone? Also with gaming apps as well, let's say if I'm going back and buying a game or let's say subscription for a game, can I go back and at least play the free version to understand if I want to go to the next level or not? So I would say Indian users really look at what's the value that I derive by paying an X amount of money, and can I go ahead and trust the app or not? Also, they generally look at, let's say, buying in small and then increasing their spend. So often, I go ahead and observe that the value of the first transaction is far lower than the next transaction. So I think that's what really works in India, and we've seen adoption across OTT subscriptions, learning apps, gaming apps as well. Learning apps is another big success story in India as to how India has really adopted learning apps in the market, and that is proof that of course, while Indians might be looking at the cost, they're also extremely value conscious, and they would spend at the right place rather than the wrong place.
That's an interesting myth to break, actually. Next one is, how do we decide between ads, subscriptions, or one time purchases?
It often depends on what kind of user segment are we looking at as well, and what's the value that we that they derive from us, right? If users are generally looking at the app frequently and really depend on the product, then it's always good to have, let's say, a subscription based app. As an example, I've worked with some of the astrology apps, and I understand that users do come back to these apps frequently and depend on the app as well for certain decision making. For those kind of apps, generally subscriptions work well with certain credits as well as different subscription tiers. On the other hand, if the usage is very casual and entertainment driven, then ads can really go ahead and scale. And we've seen that in some of the major apps, like let's say apps which are for Ludo, for chess, and for many other gaming apps as well. And for apps that are, let's say, a one-time utility purchase, generally it's like a one-time purchase. So, and we often see this with apps which are in the space of photo or video editing, or let's say even for utility apps as well, where you pay a certain amount once, and then you have the entire app that's available to you. Very interestingly, I worked with a company called CapCut while they were going ahead and promoting the app in different channels. And what I observed was that their freemium model really worked well because it was a very simple one-time purchase that the user could do and unlock all the different premium features that they had. And they've seen great success. And that's the kind of value that a strong monetization model can really add to your app success. So overall, all of these depend on what's the market expectation, who is your competitor, and what are they currently doing, and would a user want to pay for your app on a repeated basis or a one-time purchase as well?
So that's an actually a great clarity on choosing the right monetization model. So the next one is, if users enjoy free content, what motivates them to start paying?
Uh, it's true, like a lot of users today already have access to some features of an app even before starting to pay. But I think that's the whole idea of really building that habit as well. So I think users would generally start converting when they clearly understand what's the value that the app is driving, or if they've clearly built a habit around what the app can deliver. Similarly to let's say when some of these OTT apps came up in the market, they generally had, let's say, you can watch cricket for free on the app. However, for any of the other programs or serials that you want to watch, you have to pay for a subscription. Now that the user has already understood the value that is being driven, they are accustomed to opening the app, viewing what are the other TV serials, or let's say other shows that are available on the app as well. And then there is a limitation that's added in saying on the free version, you just have, let's say, cricket that is available, or let's say 1 hour of cricket viewing that's possible. On the paid version, you have HD cricket viewing, you have other channels that you can watch as well. So I think users would really start paying once they have the right value that's established, if they know and understand what the app can deliver, and they already know that they would go ahead and enjoy the app experience as well. So mostly users would never pay as soon as an app marketer puts up a paywall saying now you have to pay, otherwise it's a full stop. They would pay when they really need more of what the app can deliver.
Yeah, that's a powerful insight into user psychology, actually. So the next one is users drop off after day one. What should be fixed first?
But I think if users are really dropping off on day one, and we saw this in some of the insights that I was sharing, that actually a lot of users drop off on day zero because they had a problem. They downloaded an app, the app could not solve it, they uninstalled it, or they also cancel the free trial and it's gone. So it's very common that this happens. So it's always good to first understand what's the industry benchmark of day zero or day one retention, and then see what needs to be fixed. The first bit is to really ask the marketing team, okay, is it that the user is really understanding what's the value of the app? So let's say an example of a utility app, like let's say scanning a PDF document, right? Now, are the screenshots of the app, is the preview video of the app, is the app text, or is the app metadata really talking about what the app can deliver? Are the key feature sets really shown well for the user to understand what's the value that they're driving? If not, we're going to have a ton of users download the app and then drop off on day one. Secondly, it's also important for them to understand how quickly is the core benefit of the app actually known by the user. It's often that in the user journey, there are 10 different steps to follow. So it's important to understand where are users getting stuck the most. Are they, let's say, getting a paywall message and that's when they uninstall or they drop off? Are they getting confused in the entire app UI or UX to really understand what the core benefit might be? And then finally, also to understand in the user journey as well. Are there problems with login? Are there problems with too many steps? Are there app crashes that are happening, or let's say DNRs that are coming up as well? And all of those are insights that can help in terms of understanding why are installs coming in, but then there is a drop off. So if users don't find value in the first session, they won't be coming back. As simple as that.
That's a very practical takeaway, actually. The next one is how do we identify users likely to convert into paying customer?
I think it's a very easy bit to do, especially if the right data is with a marketer or an app developer. I think the first bit is that we often get into this mode of filtering down by demographics, filtering down by age, filtering down by different input fields that we might have collected in the first couple of sessions. What I have understood with my experience of doing a very strong cohort analysis is by understanding users by behavior, filtering them down in terms of high session frequency, understanding what how deep is their feature usage as well, or looking at early engagement spikes, and finally also looking at in the entire bit of actions that need to be completed by a user, are they going ahead and following? And if they've completed 10 out of 12 actions, that means that this is a user with a high possibility or probability of paying a certain amount as well. So I think a very strong cohort analysis based on user behavior, not just on demographics, is really helpful in terms of understanding who would be the high paying users for me. Long back when I was working with the gaming company, they actually used to go back and share a cohort report saying these are our power users, and we need to find users who are similar to our power users in the next phase of growth. So really recognizing who are these power users and what are those metrics that make them power users is important to understand who are the right users to attract and who would be possible high paying users for the app.
Yeah. So that clearly explains the importance of the retention actually. The next one is, what type of ad creatives drive revenue, not just installs?
Right. I think the ones that really set the expectation right. It's so important to ensure, especially for apps that are dependent on subscription revenue, to ensure that when they've crossed that entire hurdle of convincing a user to download the app, they don't go ahead and lose out on the user just because the user was not convinced. So it often happens that an app talks about we solve for casting from a particular screen and then it does not work. Or we go back and integrate with let's say Excel, Word to give you insights. You download it, it does not work. So it's so important to have the right creatives to ensure that even before the user downloads, they know and understand what are they downloading, what would be the kind of payment plans, and also what would the app solve for them without going back and paying, and how would their life be different. So I think for each and every part of the creative journey as well, or creative sets that are created, it's important to really understand and show what's the real product experience. Also to show how highlight outcomes, not just features. A lot of apps today go back and highlight a feature which is within the app, but really show what's the kind of outcome that would be possible, and just being very transparent about the value that the app adds to a user. I often come across this question from app developers as to how do we be different from other apps? But you don't need to be different. You can compete in the same market with a couple of extra features with a strong value proposition and still compete without going back and having one big feature which is very different. So the goal is not to get more users, it's to get users who are likely to pay. And that's the entire job that creatives drive in the market, which is to get users that are likely to pay, rather than just getting more users into the system.
Yeah, that's a valuable insight from the marketers. So the next one will be the when is the right time to introduce the paywall?
Uh, so I think these were some insights that I was sharing as well. But I would say that as soon as the user has experienced, I would say, an aha moment with the right value, it's important to introduce the paywall. And it's often after they would have completed certain actions. Just visualize that you're going back and using an editing app to complete a video edit that you want to post on Instagram or on YouTube. You went ahead, you edited the video is complete, you click on download, the video is downloading, and that's when you need to go back and introduce a paywall because you've now already established value by giving the user an option to edit the video, add all the details, download the video, and now the user is free. Now the user is keen on understanding what more can I do. And that's where we introduce premium features, add more details on the paywall, talk about, let's say, lifetime subscription. So it's important to go back and do that after user has completed a key action. The second way is to also understand if the user is probably using a particular feature multiple times. Taking the same example of let's say an editing app, if a user is always going back and saying AI enhance my pictures, right? We know that that feature is super important for that user. And that's where the paywall comes up around unlimited AI enhanced images. So it's important to also understand the frequency of usage, the actions taken up, and then finally also looking at meaningful milestones within the app. Are they currently, let's say, logging in every day for the next 30 days? Might be a good idea to introduce a paywall, right? So it's always around going ahead and introducing it as soon as the user has seen value in the app. So yeah, that would be about it.
Yeah, that's crucial for user experience. So the next one is, how can we test pricing strategies safely?
Absolutely, I think pricing is a bit of a tricky topic, and that's where some of the insights that came in from reports that I've read and also experiments that I've done is to also look at what is the kind of pricing strategy that is adopted in different parts of the world. Giving you an example, let's say a casual gaming app, let's say an app that helps you play a game of chess, might go back and charge, let's say, 19.99 per month. In the US, might be okay to charge, let's say, $15 a month in Europe. But in India, the average price for that kind of an app might be $5. So it's very important for apps to first understand what are the markets that they're currently looking at in terms of pricing. And that's where really looking at geo pricing strategy is super important. Secondly, for us to really arrive at what might be the right pricing, what might be the right pricing tiers, the discounts that are possible as well, it's important to A B test. So it's important to first have a pricing lever that's possible for a market, A B test that pricing lever and see what's the kind of uptick that it gives in terms of retention, in terms of first user adoption as well. And then also, of course, testing it across different user segments. Thirdly, what has really worked for a lot of app marketers in the Indian market is to have bundling of different products or also having like an anchor product as well. So you have a base plan for which everyone pays, and then there are subscription tiers as well, or bundling different products and saying, okay, you have this particular game that is which without ads. However, if you download, um, I would say another game from the same developer, you would have no ads over there as well. And then finally, also having trials, really looking at what's the kind of trial conversion rate that's coming in from a particular pricing. So when I do $6.99, if my trial to conversion rate is 10%, and when I do $9.99, my trial to conversion rate is 11%, then I know that the right pricing for the product or the right pricing for the app or the subscription is $9.99. So it's always a process of looking at, can I test and understand what is the user behavior really showing me? And then can I iterate to find the right answer for it as well?
Yeah, that's a smart approach to the experimentation, actually. The next one is, can you share a real example where marketing improved revenue significantly?
Absolutely. I think there are many examples of the same. One of the apps that I often refer to in some of my discussions is an app called Time Left. It's an app that allows users to connect with different individuals every Wednesday for a catch up for dinner. Now, when they started off in different parts of the world, their marketing strategy was very generic, right? It was very broad. They had some generic creatives around people having fun over dinner. However, they then broke it down to let's say having some more localized results whenever somebody is searching for time left. And if somebody has already experienced the app, they have a very hard paywall as soon as you download the app. They say, okay, you need to pay 1,000 rupees for one dinner, 2,500 for three dinners, or 5,000 for 10 dinners. And as soon as you see the paywall, you're like, okay, if I'm really interested, I will pay and attend an event. If I'm not, I'll probably just skip that. So they've already gone ahead and shown value in the first few parts of the user journey. So they went from very broad generic creatives to a very strong localized presence in each and every market. So today they're operating around 60 plus markets, and they're just around 1 year old. um, what I have seen working with them is the fact that after they made some changes to their creatives, to also their marketing initiatives as well, they have seen a significant increase in terms of new users installing the app. And they also do compete with many other different apps like Lunch Club. They also do compete with many local groups and communities as well. And they also, in a way, start competing with some dating apps too. However, their focus has been very simple with a very hard paywall around being value driven, intent based creatives that also convert into users that are finally downloading the app.
That example really brings everything together. So, next one is, do discounts drive long term growth or just short term spikes?
Well, it's a very interesting question because these days, if we enter any mall, you see 50% discount everywhere, and that's the problem. So discounts need to be used very, very effectively, especially in the app space. So if you keep giving discounts, they might not work. So discounts can mostly be used for short-term spikes and not for long-term growth. And they really work well for, let's say, first-time conversion or for a win-back campaign as well. But overuse of it can really reduce the perceived value of the subscription. So if a subscription is always at a 90% discount, you often consider it to be a not so great subscription because it's selling at 90% discount. Secondly, you see, you also start training a lot of users to wait for discounts. So users might download the app and they're like, okay, let's say a Black Friday discount will definitely come up, so let me wait for it. Or let's say generally they give a 50% discount every 2 weeks, so let me wait for it. So discounts should generally be used to create urgency and not just a dependency on app growth. So that's how I would say discounts can really drive long-term growth by not being always on.
That's a very important distinction, actually. So, thank you, Karan, for those insightful answers. Now, let's hear from our audience. We'll now open the session for live audience QA session. So, guys, you can throw your questions on the QA box. So, the QA session is open for you guys. So, you can throw your questions. What are the questions you want to ask to the Karan? Just throw it. So, I'll just read it out one by one, and Karan will answer for those questions. Yeah. The first question is, does ASO help in revenue?
Interesting question overall because see, ASO is generally leveraged for to target the right users to ensure that the app shows up when a particular user is trying to find the relevant app as well. Um, so essentially, ASO can go back and help in terms of driving the right users to the app. What's interesting is that it's super important to show up when a user is searching for you. Otherwise, what's the point of being in the app marketplace? So, and especially for brands that are trying to establish themselves, it's extremely important for them to be there and to be visible when users are trying to find them, or even for, let's say, specific category terms as well. Now, what ASO does is, firstly, it helps in terms of visibility. So let's say if somebody is trying to find an app, they find the app as well. And secondly, with the help of ASO, it's important to then optimize for creative. So let's say your screenshots, your icon, your preview video, your in-app events, or even your custom store listings. So it's important to optimize for that so that the right messaging goes out to the right users, and then they're also able to see the value of what the app might have before downloading the app. So ASO plays a key role in terms of driving visibility to the app and also ensuring that users, or let's say potential users who view the app, are converting to an install. So I would say it sits at the top of the funnel to really drive more visibility. And definitely, like folks who are trying to find the app or trying to find the brand are much more likely to pay for it because they have an actual need rather than them being driven by ads or also driven by other channels. So ASO definitely helps in terms of driving visibility, and the general long-term value that an app developer or app marketer might see with organic installs might be far higher than what they might see from other channels.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Karan. So, I'll read out the next question. The next one is, how will handle the low app installations?
It's a good problem to have because it's an easy problem to solve. I think there has to be a good mix of how is the app currently being perceived? What is the stage of the app growth as well? and what's the mix between organic and inorganic installs. Because one bit is that if the app metrics are really solved, let's say there are no crashes that happen, the app is stable, the app has a strong user journey, the payment issues are sorted out. Because there's one of these insights also shared that around 30% users on Google Play drop off when the payment page opens, right? So if the payment issues are solved out, the first bit is already solved. Now it's all about scaling. So can we then go back and start looking at scaling with ads? Or do we want to go back and scale organically? In the beginning phase, it's tough to scale organically because no one's really looking out for you. But people are looking for your competition, people are looking for your category, people are looking for your genre. So it's important to start climbing that ladder. But it might be important to run some tests with ads as well. Let's say, can we run, let's say, Google ads? Can we run Apple ads? Can we look at Meta contributing to it or DSP contributing to it as well? So it's important to start looking at what might be channels that can start contributing to give you visibility on the app as well. It's like starting a new store. You have a big mall, you start a new store in the mall. No one knows about you. No one's coming in to find you as well. However, if you start advertising, people will slowly get to know about you, and the next time that they come to the mall, they might try to find you directly. So it's a similar story with the app as well. And then, of course, you can start scaling up the app. I would say if your app is stable, if it has a strong paywall, if it is already working with no crashes, it's 90% of the problem is solved. 10% of it is fixable with performance marketing, with organic growth, and with strong scalability as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the next one is, what key metrics should we prioritize to understand why users are not converting into paying customers?
I think one of the key metric that has to be looked at as to why they're not converting into paying users is often having questions around why would they pay for this, right? Some apps, especially apps that charge over $50, started going back and doing focus group reviews as well, saying how much would you pay for this, and that's where A/B testing really works. Let's go ahead and give a 25% discount. Do they convert? Let's give them a 50% discount. Would they convert now? Let's make it free for them. Are they converting or not? So that kind of testing is required to first understand at which price point would they convert. Secondly, it's important to then cohort and understand what kind of users are not converting. Are these users who, let's say, generally complete 3 out of 10 steps in the user journey? Are these users who don't use the key feature sets before they get into the payment page or before the payment paywall was initiated? So I think those are bits that need to be looked at. But yeah, in terms of key metrics, I would just say retention has to be looked at, and also uninstall rate has to be checked up as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And the next one is, if you had to choose just one marketing strategy to improve app revenue in the next 90 days, what would it be?
It's an interesting one. So let's just keep in mind that okay, one marketing strategy to improve app revenue without, let's say, any
Near a
big
lot of
investment. A big one would be ASO, right? So it's important to fix that and also to go back and see what are other competitors doing in the market. And that can really go back and fix a lot of things in the next 90 days. Because the first bit is that we need to understand who these users are before they download the app. I think that can really go back and help in terms of app revenue uplift. Secondly, if we're looking at channels, it really depends on which market and what kind of app is there as well. But I would say there's no silver bullet or let's say a golden bullet to this. So can't really select between one marketing strategy. But a lot of folks today go ahead and get ASO wrong. So if you do that right for the next 90 days, you should be seeing some good results.
Thank you so much for that. The next one is, how is AI changing app monetization and user engagement in 2026?
Um, it's interesting because you see, with AI, we saw the number of apps has absolutely exploded. So earlier, you were probably competing in the same space with 10 apps. Today, it's 100 apps. So you know and understand that the user interest is being split into so many different directions, and their entire probability of also downloading your app has reduced if you're not showing up at the right spaces. Secondly, in terms of user engagement, a lot of users are not very patient these days. So you start seeing a lot of uninstalls or let's say trial cancellations on day zero. So you need to go back and show immediate value as soon as somebody installs the app. I think AI is changing a lot of bits in terms of making the market more competitive and also making pricing plans, tiers more adaptable to users. And that's where having your pricing right and also having your value proposition being right for the market is far more important than the number of apps showing up.
Yeah, thank you. So the next one is incentivizing users to download and subscribe our app will help in long-term revenue earning.
I think, see that it's a gray area, right? If we're looking at incentivizing, what's the kind of incentive for them to download the app? The first incentive has to be to have great value from the app, for the app to go back and really demonstrate what it promised. Now, if we are going back and let's say incentivizing a user with in monetary terms, saying download the app, subscribe, and you get let's say a Amazon gift card, right? One, it might be a bit of a gray area for both Apple App Store as well as Google Play Store. Secondly, it might not be a very long-term strategy for you to do that because one, the user quality will drop. There might be users who are coming in just for that incentive and not really sticking around because you want users who are retained over a long period of time, not just for the first purchase. So I think it might be a good strategy to look at, but more from a standpoint of having a, I would say, a promotion rather than it being a growth strategy.
Yeah, thank you. The next one is how do you segment the initial traffic based on intent in app marketing funnel?
Interesting one. So as soon as initial traffic starts coming in, it's important to understand, okay, my user journey is split into five different parts. The first part is more around steps that they have to complete. The second bit is I'm trying to understand what's the time that they spend in each step as well. I want to understand what's their feature usage, and also before they close the app, what's the last feature used. And in that way, it might start giving me more in terms of, let's say, what's the kind of time spent on each feature set, what's the complexity that the user requires as well. And thirdly, I would also start looking at, before finalizing the payment, where was the user in the app journey? Did they complete a particular step? Did they start going back and, let's say, leveraging a feature far too much? And I think it starts giving you more insights in terms of saying, let's say if it's a health or let's say a habit tracking app, the user had used it for 5 days before taking up a 1 year subscription, or the user had, let's say, analyzed his BMI before really looking at a lifetime subscription. So it's all around really looking at segmenting in a way that I can go back and take decisions by looking at some of these metrics overall. But a lot of it is around actions being taken, retention metrics, frequency of usage as well, and finally the time spent on the app.
Okay, thank you so much. The next one is many app owners want to earn revenue without running paid ads. Is this possible for new apps?
It's definitely possible. It might go ahead and take some time though, because if you're a new app in the market, the first bit is to really have users know you and really understand what's the value proposition. With ads, it accelerates the entire journey. So more people know about you very quickly, and you have very high visibility or let's say number of impressions that come in. With organic, I would say it's a small number of folks who might get to know you or start looking at the app. So the growth is slower but more sustained. With ads, the growth is faster, but sustaining it is also a challenge. So it's more around what's the goal of the app? Is it to build sustained revenue over a period of time, or is it to go back and have limited pushes uh, time to time? So it might be a good idea to run paid ads in small numbers to start boosting visibility, but still depend on organic downloads as a key channel. That might be a good way to look at it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Next one is, what one unique strategy you suggest to get paying users for a new app in its first 30 days?
Interesting bit because there isn't a unique strategy for to get paying users to a new app in 30 days. But I would say definitely one strategy that has worked is in terms of looking at uh, because very few apps today go back and do that, is to look at launching the app, especially during a particular season or a high growth season as well. Secondly, starting and looking at promotions during that season and saying it's only free or only at this particular price for the first 30 days. You would have seen this pretty commonly in a lot of stores which are for food and beverages, that they give out, let's say, on a particular day, on the launch day, particular meal is for free, right? The entire idea is to attract a lot of folks because you're giving out something that costs a lot for free, and then from day 7 you start charging them, right? So one unique idea would be to really look at how can I go ahead and have the app being launched at a particular season, which is generally a season where a lot of folks download apps and folks are generally free. Then looking at what's the initial value that I can drive as well. To give you an idea, I worked with an app which was in the space of kids gaming, or a kids gaming app which was teaching kids how to code. And they launched the app during the summer season when kids had holidays from school. And they said the first 7 days are free. From the eighth day, you start paying. So essentially, it's like a free trial for the first 7 days. And in the first 7 days, they had a counseling session for parents, counseling session for kids, on AI, on how to use AI well. They had some webinars that they did as well. And that's what really helped a parent understand, okay, this app has extreme value for me to subscribe. So in that span of 30 to 45 days of holidays for kids, they actually started going back and getting installs very quickly.
Thank you. And the last question, I'm seeing a high volume of app installs, but the registration rate is significantly low. What could be the underlying reasons for this drop off?
Firstly, it's common. It's common to have a lot of installs and low registrations or low conversions as well. It's a uh, common bit, but you do want to understand what's the general trends that are coming in as well. Like, let's say, if your conversion rate today is 2% or 1%, you'd want to increase that as well. And firstly, the first bit to solve is to look at, are you currently having the right installs or not? So fixing your app metadata with your app text and app visuals becomes the first part. Then trying to understand, let's say, folks who have subscribed, are they currently paying, let's say, a monthly, a yearly subscription, and can the cost of it be a probable factor? Thirdly, are there specific cohorts that are converting? If yes, how do I become more valuable to those cohorts? So I think those are ways in which you can go back and increase the conversion rates, but it's very common, especially for subscription apps, to have low conversion rates in a market.
Thank you so much for those answers from you, Karan. It was very interesting. And now, as we come towards the end of the today's session, I would like to take a moment to thank Karan once again for sharing such a valuable insight with us. So, your practical perspectives on app monetization and revenue-driven marketing had made this session truly informative and engaging. And a big thank you to all of our participants for joining us today, for your time, your your questions and your active participations. Thank you so much. So before we wrap up, we would love for you to stay connected with us and join our upcoming tech talk sessions, where we'll continue bringing more industry experts on exacting topics. So make sure you stay connected with .com Infoway for more updates. So once again, thank you very everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Goodbye, and we look forward to see you in the next talk sections also. So thank you so much, Karan. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. It was an interesting topic today we have chosen. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.